I'm Mike McCann. I write about legal issues for Sportico, and today I'm going to talk about name, image, and likeness and the current state of NIL, as it's commonly abbreviated. So NIL refers to the ability of a college athlete to make money from his or her name, image, and likeness. So that means, more concretely, the ability to sign an endorsement deal, the ability to sponsor a camp, the ability to make money influencing different products on social media, including to thousands or maybe even millions of Instagram followers. College athletes currently face, if they try to earn from their identity, really NIL is about identity, who you are, how do you monetize it? So NIL is a topic that stems from NCAA rules that have been around for many decades. In fact, look at how the NCAA began. It began in the early 20th century, and it wasn't created to limit what college athletes can make. It was created to make college sports safer. President Theodore Roosevelt was worried about college players dying on the field, so he told the college presidents, either you get your act together or the federal government will do it for you. That led to the creation of an entity that became known as the NCAA. Fast forward to World War II. After the war, a number of soldiers returned home. They were young, and the government passed the GI Bill, which allowed all of these men and women who served to go to college for free. Well, some schools got the idea, why don't we take advantage of that by offering them an athletic scholarship as well? So the government pays for their tuition, and then we essentially pay them to play a sport. And this actually led to the rise of a dominating rise in the South among some of the biggest college athletic programs that we see today. Alabama, Clemson, the Florida schools. Previously, the biggest college sports were in the Northeast, which is sort of ironic because it's really where they currently are not. But as time went on, more money was made through college sports, and the NCAA developed rules that said, well, we have to make sure that college athletes are not considered employees, because if they're employees, then they'll be able to get workers' comp. And workers' comp allows somebody who's injured on the job to be paid potentially for years. So schools were worried that they would be able to, they would be required to pay injured college athletes long after they're no longer affiliated with the school. So that led to the creation of amateurism. Amateurism rules prevent college athletes from being compensated. So it's interesting, the origin of the rules that we're talking about really were, in part at least, a litigation device designed to ensure that college athletes weren't classified as employees and thus eligible for workers' comp. 1980s come, 1990s, college sports take off. They become much more lucrative. The ESPN surfaces, and that leads to the value of college sports surging. Well, during this time, college athletes were still not getting anything more than a full ride, which was the maximum. While this was going on, video games were created, where games were created involving real, or it seemed real, college players, basketball and football, and they were popular, and they were played for years. And then go to 2009. Ed O'Bannon, former UCLA basketball star, former NBA player, a buddy of his told him, hey, Ed, my son is playing this video game on his Xbox and you're in it. And Ed said, well, that's interesting because I didn't know I was in a video game. He had been retired from pro basketball for years. He was just living with his wife and 3 kids in a suburb of Las Vegas. And Ed thought, it seems a little weird that I didn't get paid. Now, he had made a lot of money through college sports, through pro sports, so he wasn't necessarily worried about that, but he had teammates who were in these games that were never compensated. That led to O'Bannon's case against the NCAA, and he won. And it was also against Electronic Arts, which reached a settlement with Ed. And the basics of that case were, can college athletes' identities be used in video games? And the court said, no, it's a violation of antitrust law for schools to get together to limit what college athletes can get. This is about the relationship between the college athlete and some company, some camp, some apparel entity, some Instagram following company. This is about third parties, not with the school. So it's an interesting case. We'll see what the NCAA does. Look, Georgia's law is different than Florida's law, which is different from Alabama's law. So there's going to be a chaos problem, a patchwork problem. It's really the most interesting time we've seen in college sports. Well, thank you for joining us. Please follow Sportico. And if you're interested in hearing more about name, image, and likeness, a number of us have written on this topic. Follow us on Twitter. Thank you for